Good evening. I call the Ames Area Metropolitan Planning Organization Policy Board, July 9th. Good evening, members. First item on the agenda is we have consent agenda, and there's two items on that. Does anyone want to pull either item of consent? Otherwise, we'll take a motion to approve consent.
Approve consent agenda. Second.
Thank you. Those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
And opposed? Motion carried. And we'll move on to item number 3, hearing on the public participation plan. Ron, do you have any questions or any comments we can make?
So this is pretty much the same plan, draft plan, as the draft plan that was brought to the committee in May. We had a 45-day public comment period. We didn't receive any public comment. Our DOT also reviewed the document and had very minor comments that were addressed for the final version.
Thank you. Any questions from committee for staff? I declare the public hearing on public participation plan to be open. Is there anyone who wants to address the committee on this particular item? Seeing none, I declare the public hearing to be closed. Entertain a motion approving the final public participation plan.
Move approval.
I'll second. Thank you. For the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Motion carried, and move on to item 4. Hearing on FFY 2025-2028 Transportation Improvement Program. Carol?
So very similar to the public participation plan, draft was brought forward in May. There hasn't been any substantial changes. No public comments were received. Minor comments were received from Iowa DOT, and those were addressed in the final version.
Thank you. Questions from the committee? All right. The public hearing on FFY 2025-2028 Transportation Improvement Program to be open. Is there anyone who wants to address the committee on this item? Seeing none, we'll declare the public hearing to be closed. Entertain a motion on resolution approving the final FFY 2025-2028 Transportation Improvement Program.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Moved by something. Those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Committee comments. City Council, any comments?
No, thank you.
Boone County.
Nope, none tonight.
All right. Thank you. Entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. We are adjourned. Thank you for coming. Well, good evening. Call regular meeting of the Ames City Council for Tuesday, July 9th. We'll start off with a couple items, one's proclamation and one's presentation. So we'll start with proclamation. Recreation Month. Whereas Parks and Recreation is an integral part of communities throughout this country, including Ames, Iowa, and whereas Parks and Recreation promotes health and wellness, improving the physical and mental health of people who live near parks, and whereas Parks and Recreation promotes time spent in nature, which positively impacts mental health by increasing cognitive performance and well-being, and whereas Parks and Recreation encourages physical activities by providing space for sports, trails, swimming pools, and many other activities designed to promote active lifestyles. Whereas Parks and Recreation increases the community's economic prosperity through increased property values, tourism, the attraction and retention of businesses, crime reduction, and whereas the U.S. House of Representatives has designated July as Parks and Recreation Month, and Ames recognizes the benefits derived from parks and recreation resources. Therefore, I, John A. Taylor, Mayor of the City of Ames, Iowa, do hereby proclaim the month of July 2024 as Parks and Recreation Month. Keith?
Thank you, Mayor and City Council. I'd like to just start off with Park and Recreation Month is always a good thing. We do so many good things, and it's only made possible by the fact that the City Council, Mayor, the supportive City Manager and his office, Parks and Recreation Commission, they really support what we do, and that's really important. So we can provide the opportunities, the services, and the programs for the residents of Ames. We do have, I guess, maybe one more thank you that I would make, and that is to our staff. Everything that we do is possible because we have 29 full-time staff, and a lot of people don't realize this, but we have approximately 400 temporary part-time staff that work for us throughout the year, providing those services and so on. A couple of activities that we have going on. We have yoga in the park at Bandshell on Saturday mornings through July. Municipal Band is on Thursday nights at the Bandshell Park. They are also celebrating their 100th year anniversary as a band. We have some new activities. We have a chess camp that's going to be held in July. Doing some STEM camps, and the one here at the end of July is actually called Slimetopia. So we'll be able to do a lot of things involving slime. And then we also have facilities from an aquatic center, the Ames Ice Arena, Homewood Golf Course, and obviously we have all of our parks, 40 parks, almost 1,300 acres of outdoors for people to enjoy. And we really encourage everybody to always get outside, enjoy, be active. As the mayor said, there's a lot of benefits to recreation and being outdoors. And with that, take an opportunity of everything, because this is all for you, the residents. So thank you so much, Mayor, and thank you, everybody.
All right. Chief Huff and Ron and I want to come up and join me here for a award presentation. On behalf of the Ames City Council and Best Friends Animal Society, I'd like to congratulate the Ames Animal Shelter and Animal Control on achieving a 98.2% live release rate for the calendar year of 2023. Best Friends Chief Executive Officer Julie Castle stated, "You joined an elite group of organizations across the country who are leading the way toward making us a no-kill nation by saving 90% more of the animals in your shelter." This is the second year in a row that Best Friends has recognized the Ames Animal Shelter. Proud to state that our shelter has achieved no-kill status for at least the last 10 years. We appreciate Best Friends for initiating this national recognition of shelters that are achieving life-saving results. And this accomplishment represents so much more than just a number. It represents a culture of caring and compassion. It represents dedicated staff, committed volunteers, and motivated supporters. It represents innovative, thoughtful programming, and it represents extraordinary leadership, both within the organization and within the broader animal welfare movement. So it's my honor to present this plaque as it celebrates your dedication, leadership, and incredible milestone you've reached on behalf of the animals we all love. Thank you for all that you do, and your staff, you save the lives of the animals in your care. Congratulations. Ron, you want to say a few things, or even though Keith tried to cut you off?
Does it all the time. First, Mayor, thank you so much for this honor, and fellow council members, City Manager's Office, Chief Huff. We could not do what we do without your support. We're so honored to be able to run a shelter that achieves these goals, and I have to absolutely thank my staff, my team, these amazing people here. I would not be able to do what we do without them. We wouldn't be able to save the lives that we do day in and day out. We also have some volunteers here with us. We were just looking at some numbers, and we have over 200 volunteers that gave time to us this last fiscal year, over 7,000 hours. It's a huge accomplishment for a small shelter that we are. So again, to all the staff, thank you so much for your commitment, your care, your passion. We couldn't do it without you. And again, City Council members, man, thank you so much for your support.
Can you have the volunteers stand up so we can acknowledge them?
Thanks for asking, Gloria. That was important to recognize the volunteers as well, too. So thank you.
We couldn't do it without them.
That's correct. Wow, 7,000 hours. That's amazing. All right, move on to consent agenda. Council, does anyone want to pull any item from consent?
Mayor, I'd like to pull item 21.
Okay. Anything else? All right, entertain a motion to approve consent less item number 21.
So moved.
Roll call.
Aye.
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 All right. Vote.
So I pulled this item because I think repeatedly we say we don't do enough to highlight the things that we we are doing in order to help meet our climate action goals. And this is one of those items that help us to achieve that. So I don't know if we've got someone back there, maybe Corey, say something about these new vehicles that we're getting.
Yes, we worked with two departments, kind of regular replacement, and talked to them about the opportunity to do all electric bid. And we've seen the council action forum. This is where we're using some of our fleet interest that we earned to help them purchase these, to get these into the fleet. Both these departments have said they're willing to help install the chargers to get them charged. So we just recently received our two Ford Lightnings that should go into service in the next month. So it continues, and hopefully we'll continue to see that as we move forward.
So will those chargers be available for the public or just for the city vehicles?
I think at water, I think they're looking at maybe potentially bulk to do that. In a lot of areas, it's just going to be for the private kind of city vehicles, but I think we're starting to work with electric to increase public charging probably at most of our city facilities.
Great, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Motion?
I would move approval.
Roll call.
Aye.
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 Thank you. Move on to public forum. This is the time we set aside for comments from the general public on topics of city business, other than those listed on the agenda. Please understand we will not take any action on your comments, and ask that you would us. Richard, I see that you're standing up. Assume that you want to make a comment.
I tried to sign the target. He told me I couldn't sign. And it sort of seems kind of silly. I mean, it's like they're not the only company that told me I can't do signs in the stores. Walmart, I tried to sign and we'll work today into Walmart, and I get a long lecture from Mr. Bill, the assistant manager of Walmart, about Walmart's policies about signs. You know, and I tried to carry a sign into Hy-Vee, and they said they knew I was a regular customer for years, but they didn't like my sign, and I don't know.
Thank you, Richard. Anybody else want to address council under public forum? Seeing none, we'll close public forum. We'll move on to item number 29, presentation of the DEI annual update from Cassandra.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I will just start right off the bat. I have.
There we go.
Yes.
Oh. Sorry, I could see it on my monitor, but okay. So initially, when I started, the tasks that were assigned were general, getting to know, learning, researching, understanding what maybe different city DI plans were across the state, across the country, also understanding what other departments do in the city. It was very helpful for me to know that I could meet with all of the executive team and understand more about what our city does to serve the community. I have now met all of the other DI coordinators. They're all called something different. So I say DI because that's my title, but everyone is called something different. And I have been able to meet all of them, all the cities that do have them in Iowa. So they have been a great support and resource. Recruitments. It was decided from before I even started at this position to be involved in recruitment for HR in order to learn what it is, learn the whole process, be able to assist with them, and also to learn the pieces of recruitments in order to then see it through this lens of how do we find or what are the opportunities to be more equitable, to be more inclusive. And since then, I have either been leading or have been participating in the recruitments, still currently helping out with that. Next slide is ADA. The ADA also falls under my duties. I am the ADA coordinator, which means that I oversee our public buildings, our services, activities, events for the public. I was able to go to the national conference last year and learn a lot of great, overwhelming information. So one of the first things that I did when I came back to the city was look up where our transition plan currently is and take it from there. We now have an ADA committee here at the city. We are working on updating this transition plan, which looks like me alongside staff from inspections walking through our buildings, taking pictures, documenting, measuring, and being able to figure out the things that are low-hanging fruit, making sure that we're putting in the transition plan, but also seeing the next 5, 10, 15 years of the things that still need to be updated, but starting with the reasonable things and then moving forward with that in the future. Currently still training on becoming a certified ADA coordinator. I look up my resources when it comes to knowing who our ADA liaison is for the Midwest area. I take phone calls. I have spoken with a few different organizations in the community that serve people who have disabilities to, again, learning and understanding what's going well, what the challenges are, what the needs are. And again, always trying to find the ways on how to best serve. Let's see, when it comes to federal reporting, it's mainly 2 items. It's the EO4 report that I'm in charge of uploading every 2 years. That was done this last December. And then the ongoing affirmative action document that each contractor, vendor, subcontractor of the city is required to do per federal requirements in order for them to abide by not discriminating anyone based off of the sex, race, religion, and then also for them not to be discriminatory based on employment or job application. So I review the reports and make sure that the things that they have in the documents is current and up to date so that I can pass it on to the clerk's office. Next slide is staying connected in the community. That is, what that entails is ensuring that the community knows, first of all, that this position exists, who I am, the purpose of the work behind making sure that we are doing the things that we can to make the city welcoming, inclusive, engaging for everyone. And that means that we all have a part in that. So being connected in the community is one of the biggest tasks that I have because I cannot do this on my own. So it's been very, very important for me to attend meetings, the Story County Immigrant Refugee Coalition, any other quarterly meeting that will maintain my my learning and that I will be able to be updated, meet people, build those relationships and that trust that we need in the community in order to have those partnerships. Always looking for more ways to do this as well. When it comes to being the staff liaison to the Ames Relations Commission, we have worked really hard on moving things forward in order to be present in the community, to be engaged, and to not only continue to be active and present in the current events and activities that they have been doing, but to create more of those opportunities. Thanks to council, we now have more commissioners, which has been a great asset for the commission. They have done a lot of work. They have created their own coloring book, which I don't think a lot of relations commissions can say, and that is representative of the history of Ames, and we give those out for free at the events that we have at Juneteenth. We will be doing the National Night Out as well, and we are creating new events in order for the community to be able to see them and have them more attainable and more accessible. Creating these events in order for them to be different times, locations, so that we do see different populations, hopefully, and they come with us with questions back and just, again, so that they know who their commissioners are. A little bit of continuation on the Ames Community Relations Commission. It is the 50th anniversary this year, so they are planning a community event so that people can come get together and celebrate their accomplishments. What else? We have many new things. We have a calendar of events, which we are always looking forward to the next thing, which we can either create or be involved in. We have ideas on how our webpage can look like and how we can make that more accessible for people in order to maintain active in future things with an email list, which we currently don't have on the website. So now that it will be remodeled, I think we'll have a lot more resources for the community. The Municipal Equality Index is the way in which the Human Rights Campaign can score cities that are services that are for the LGBT community. Last year, it was, we started with a score of 86. They gave us a week in order to pull all the information together, and working alongside different departments, we found the information to get us to a 96 because there was actually resources, events, benefits for employees that we currently have and are doing. So that was another great credit to the city for the work that you already do. Building relationships. It's really, there's a lot. This is not an exhaustive list. This is a few of the people, organizations, and agencies that I have contacted this last year, and that continue to reach out to the people that I haven't met yet. Again, it's building relationships, it's building trust, it's starting that communication, it's finding opportunities to collaborate, because what I have found this last year is that there are so many of us that are doing the same work. We tend to do it separately. So in hindsight, we can now look at the things that we can start doing together, because together we are stronger. And start creating those teams, those projects. So I'm really excited about the things that we can start working together on. Training for employees, that is another task on my to-do list. Creating a robust training for city employees, whether it's mandatory, voluntary, within the EDC classes that we offer every fall and every spring. We want to make sure that they are always available, that there's opportunities to learn, to grow, and to continue that development, but then also always be able to also offer the baseline for new employees. So knowing that there's always going to be a spectrum of people that need the information at different levels. So more to come on that. We are working on it. I have been able to present a little bit of DEI to the leadership team, and starting with our DEI value, which you see on the screen, and breaking it apart so that we all start understanding, what does that mean? What does it mean to you? How many different perspectives can we all take with one sentence? And then we went through a of how can we then make that livable as we work in the city with employees, with the people that we manage, that we work with. Belonging in Ames is a fairly new social media show that the purpose is to not only introduce myself and the highlights of what the work is of the coordinator and what the tasks are. Each episode is something different. The AHRC, coordinator, collaborations. It's another way to be accessible to the community, so the community knows and is aware of the things that the city is doing and is working on. It is aired twice a month if you want to watch it. It's always on YouTube. It's on our page. And Up Close is a podcast that we're currently working on, hopefully to start this fall. We want to highlight the stories of the people in our community because everyone brings experience, everyone has a different background, a different perspective, and everyone has a diversity within themselves, whether it's visible or invisible, in order to shed light on people, to see them as humans, but then also to hopefully find some relevance in each other and find connections where we where we maybe wouldn't have unless we would have heard that story or learned a little bit more about that person. So more to come on the podcast. ISU in the city. ISU is a force of its own because it houses not only staff, faculty, and students, but it houses, for the most part, all of the things that they need on campus. So what I have found anytime that I go there is everyone seems to autonomously work, on their own, which has its benefits. The drawback of that is, again, I find that people are working on the same things separately, but they don't know about the same thing, or we're just lost in communication. And I have found that also for students who are there are not connected with the city. And that's one of the real big things that I am trying to work on. And again, we now have a team where that is one of our main goals. What are the things that are working well that we could enhance? What are the challenges that we really need to work on? And who else can we bring in? Because we have resources. It's just getting creative and getting together. Communicating. A lot of this is communicating the same message consistently over and over until we reach as many people. And these are a few of the people and the departments that I've met with on ISU. What is next? Continue building relationships will never stop. That is always on my list. It is always a priority. I mentioned a little bit before developing a robust training for staff. Also assisting in what will be our method, our way of operating when it comes to outreach in the community. And I share this with departments and with staff here at the city. I am a resource. The main way that I can explain what I do is I serve employees within the city and I serve the community. And that will look like a lot of different ways depending on what the need is, but to please use me as that resource. And also, soon, maybe also this fall, presenting on a community-wide inclusion plan, what that will look like in comparison to other plans. Questions?
Thank you. Questions? Comments?
Cassandra, this is great. I know when you started, there was some question about what your job was actually going to be like.
Absolutely.
Are you feeling now that you have identified the shape that your job will continue to take, or are you
Yes.
still exploring?
I think there's still a little bit of both because as this path is still being paved, I can't say no to a lot of things because I know they need to be addressed, even if it's in the sense of let's have that conversation, let's ask those questions, let's assess. It doesn't necessarily mean I'm jumping on it, I'm taking it on, but I'm at least dedicating that time to seeing if that is the direction that I need to take. Instead of just saying, no, I can't take that on. I might say that in the end, but to at least start that dialogue to figure out, well, maybe this fits already in something else that I'm doing and we don't need to reinvent the wheel. But so yes, still a little bit of both. That might change, but currently that's where we're at.
And do you feel like what you've been doing has made a difference in, I don't know, in city operations or in connections to the community? Any of those things that you talked to us about?
That's a really good question, and it's fair because I think that in this year at least, it's a lot of things are hard to measure because how do you quantify how something tangible when you're talking about building relationships and measuring trust, right? Which is a lot of what I have been doing. But one of the things that, for example, reaching out to Ames Pride and building a connection with them as the coordinator, one of the things of the feedback that I got was, you know, it doesn't mean that I'm solving all the problems, but now we have a dedicated person that we know we can contact, and we've started that conversation. We're building a relationship. So to me, that is some progress, and I am all for making some progress versus waiting for everything to be perfect and then not moving forward. So I think that those things are still, they still matter and they have value, but I can't measure them. But there's other things that, for example, recruiting, when we're revising interview questions in order to gain more information from candidates, or expanding the way in which we are trying to meet requirements so that we meet more people where they're at. Those types of things I think a little bit more tangible. That doesn't mean that, you know, we're getting as many candidates as we need, because I think that is a lack of a resource everywhere right now. So I think there's a little bit of both. And as I continue to, we will start with more structured baseline ways of measuring things so that we can look back and say, this is where we were and this is where we are now.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Other question.
I'm really excited too. It's hard to believe it's already been a year, but at the same time, been very busy. So thank you for everything that you do. I was just curious about the number of other coordinators in cities, since you said that you all are gathering.
Yes, virtually monthly.
But what are the numbers in Iowa?
Oh, which ones have them?
Right, which cities
So
have them?
West Des Moines, Polk County, Johnson County, Cedar Rapids, Cedar Falls, Davenport, or Dubuque. Dubuque. Sioux City, Iowa City. So about 10 of us.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's very encouraging.
It is.
Have you felt, so are all of them?
I am the newest one, actually.
What would be the longest serving?
Well, I think Iowa City was around, don't quote me on this, but I think maybe around 2017.
I'm just curious to know who that is.
Yes,
Within,
yes.
within the state, and it's great that you have that local resource. To
It is,
go on,
yes.
so,
Thank you.
Anything else, Anita?
I think that's it.
Just have a couple of things. The council's heard me talk about this. Um, I I want our whole state to embrace sort of a renewed vision for welcoming people to our state. A Robert Ray philosophy of encouraging people to come to our state, and so I'm really excited for the report. It's great. Could you give us a little snapshot of from your perspective, what's going on in terms of immigrants coming to the community, what challenges they're facing? Are there things that you would like us to know about immigrants coming?
I think even for me, it's a little challenging because it's also knowing where to be connected and stay connected. So that's even a challenge for myself. But I think in general, it's things like language barriers. Are they coming with English? Do they have to learn English? Who is going to teach them? Does it cost money? Can they do that while finding a job? Do they need to do that first? It's a million of those little things. And it's also who is supporting them. Is it a church? Is it a family? Are they making them feel welcome? Do they feel like they belong already? Have they had good experiences in those few days, weeks, months? Are they getting acclimated with their children to school? It's all those small little things that I think should also we should take note on, maybe also asking them those questions. And again, I am just at the surface of, in general, immigrants and refugees in the area. I do attend the quarterly meeting, but that doesn't mean that I'm meeting them. So I am now getting together with the people who are at the meeting so that we can have those conversations, and from there, hopefully have a partnership, and from there, more opportunities usually arise.
So there are going to be categories of things that the city is not going to do a very good job with, that we just don't have the tools in our toolbox to help.
Yeah.
But there may be things that we're not aware of, and so if there are best practices you can come across in cities where the cities are doing innovative things to create paths for immigrants to the community. Those would be things we'd like to learn. And so please keep us appraised. Maybe it's just a matter of showing up. If there's an event or something where we just show up and we just say, we're so glad you're here. And we want your kids in our schools. We want you to feel like this is a community that is welcome. So sometimes just showing up makes a difference.
I agree.
And then a final thing, whether you have an answer now or it's just something to think about, I would like to have a better understanding of the headwinds that you're seeing in the community. So this idea, I love the term belonging. And so is you're helping people to feel like they're connected in the community and they have a sense of belonging. There are probably some headwinds that we may not be aware of. And so do you have any short list items that you think would be important for us tonight, or maybe that's something that you think about? Maybe in the future, you let us know. Are there challenges that people are facing, feeling connected to the community?
That's a great question. And I think that the difficult thing about belonging is that you will feel belonging differently than I will feel it. I will have different needs than you in order to get to the same result of belonging. So I think that, for example, looking at our current Ames resident satisfaction survey, I think that tells us a lot. I think it's conversations, surveys, it is meeting basic needs. Because if we look at Maslow's pyramid of hierarchy, the hierarchy of needs, belonging is in the middle. So it's not the first thing. First have to meet needs and make people feel safe. So we have to address those things first in order to then start working on the belonging piece. And that's just a general concept. I could definitely process and think of specific things for you, but definitely addressing the first two things in order to get there.
Yeah, great. Thank you for your comments.
Aaron, do you have any questions? Doesn't sound like it. You got a question?
Thank you.
I just want to applaud what you're doing with the Human Relations Commission. That commission really has a lot of potential. As I have the honor of appointing people to the commission, I always look for people that are really excited about that last little, oomph. And so, boy, you got a lot of stuff on your plate. So really appreciate, that. And the other thing that just in almost years I've been in office, the connection with IHU students has been a real challenge. I'm really looking forward to seeing how you can move, on that one, because they're half our residents.
Exactly.
And all the different groups that you have listed are great contacts. And from time to time, I'll have a meeting with someone that wants to be connected. But it's the communication as well too. So
Yes.
I applaud that, and I'm just looking forward to hearing how that
Thank you.
goes forward. And if there's things, I know that presumably maybe she didn't quite hear the question. I'm sure she did a great, also, I know that the student body
I will take any referrals.
president and
them
vice
all.
president, I know will probably be very much interested in doing that as well too. So,
And I would add to that only, John, faculty and staff as well. So I'm really concerned about sort of the revolving door at Iowa State for our faculty of color, and we're struggling with retention, and there's only so much Iowa State can do, and so part of that needs to be on the community side. And I don't have any answers, but just want to put that on your radar screen. We want to try to address that more.
thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, move on to item number 30, changes to electric rates to adopt revenue neutral rate adjustments. Mr. Com.
Good evening. I won't introduce myself because my boss told me not to. So tonight I'm here to talk a little bit about something that we basically started a little bit over a year ago. Council approved us to hire a firm to basically do what's called a cost of service study. In essence, they're looking at the rates that we charge our customers, do the costs and the rates kind of line up, and then look at a couple of things that will give us the tools in moving forward to handle things like electric vehicle charging, and how can we incentivize, not penalize, but incentivize our customers to maybe use their energy a little bit differently, which not only can help us, but can also lower the costs for individual customers. So as you recall, we had a workshop back on the 18th of last month. It was a joint workshop, Council and URAB, which is the advisory board that put the individuals on there to basically do deep dives within the electric utility, and we meet about every other month right now, working on this. Following the meeting on the 18th, where the consultant sat down and went through the different things that we were going to talk about, URAB then met on the 20th to talk not only about the rates themselves, but there were several questions and several things that were brought up from the council standpoint that we also discussed. And after the 20th, URAB basically looked at everything and they said, we think we are ready to move ahead on some of the things that were talked about by the consultant. And there are basically four things that I'll briefly outline them if I can. First thing, this is all in the council action form, is a change in the monthly service charges and energy rates. One of the things the study found was that we have more of our fixed costs, the transformers, the distribution, that are in the energy rates, and the recommendation was to move some of those costs into the fixed charge. But because we're not asking for any kind of rate increase, we then also adjusted the energy charges lower, so the overall net impact to a particular customer class should be zero. That's not to say every customer's rates are going to go down. Some will go up a little bit depending upon energy usage, but the majority will go down as we shift those costs into the customer charge. And those things are basically found on page 2. You can see how we were adjusting those rates. And this is both all four of our classes: residential, small commercial, large commercial, and then our industrial classes. And I can go into more detail if you want to do that. The second thing, and this is really the next step in rate design, is to give a more open view on how our energy costs change over a given month, but more importantly, over a given day. There are typically more expensive hours for the utility to operate in that you don't see under our current rate design, which is it's 11 cents, whether you use it at 2 in the morning, 2 in the afternoon, Sunday, Monday, July 25th, or June 30th. So the concept or the idea that's out there is to move something towards a time of use rate. So this is the next step into giving our customers a view, when does it cost us money? And what that allows us to do is we have a common focal point to say, we're going to tell you what it's costing us. And if you can shift your usage, if you can change your patterns of behavior, you have the ability to greatly influence, greatly reduce your energy costs. These are optional today. They're not mandatory, but it gives people the opportunity that have flexible loads where they can say, well, maybe I don't need to charge that electric vehicle at 3 in the afternoon. I can wait till later in the day. So they see what the rate looks like and they can then make personal judgments. That's the second piece, and then we have them for all four classes. The next piece in here, we're looking at, so we have on our largest of large customers, our industrial base, we have a rate that is, we call interruptible. So we encourage our customers to sign up ahead of time and say, how much load could you turn off in a moment's notice? And this is open for very big customers that are shedding 500 kilowatts or larger. We currently have one customer that's interested in that, or that is doing it, and we have others that are looking at it. And the consultant basically said, let's tweak them ever so slightly, give a little bit more money to encourage a customer to sign up. And then if they sign up and they're successful when we need them, and believe me, they were extremely beneficial last year when we hit that new peak. This is another way to encourage more customers to sign up for it. And then the last thing is there was a tweak. So again, if our bucket is one size, there was noticed that the residential customers were paying slightly more into that bucket than, say, the commercial and the small commercial and the commercial. So there's an ever so slight tweak between the customer classes that was also done in the rates. The last thing I'll mention is time of use rates. They're not as easy as, one size fits all and just charge everybody the same. So we are also asking in here the ability to start a pilot early. And what I mean by a pilot is we'll take 20 or so volunteers and start applying the time of use rate so we can get billing coordinated. We can get our metering people up to speed. We can get electric and the customer service side. Customer service really needs to know this. So that's the other element in here of the four pieces. With that said, I'm available for questions.
Thank you.
Just a couple questions. If you look at the residential time of use rate, it's a tremendous savings between off-peak and on-peak in the summer. So on-peak is 0.2655 per kilowatt hour, and off-peak is 0.08. So it's a pretty substantial difference from a percentage perspective. But in the winter, there's really not much of a difference. So as we think about trying to encourage people to change behaviors, do you perceive there to be a challenge between in a situation where we're asking for their change behavior for only part of the year and not sustained throughout the year? Could you speak to that?
Yes, sir. So everything that drives there are three components. We have energy. That energy is you flip the switch, it's whatever's flowing in. We have capacity or demand. That's if we hit 138 megawatts, I got to start planning for that next generator. It's a $50 million investment. Then we have our transmission use. All of those are being driven off of our summer peak. Okay, in the summer, we peak at 138. In the winter, I haven't even on the coldest of days, I don't think we've even broken 100. So there's two ways to do this. We could have just set up a time of use summer rate and just focus on that and said, okay, in the summer, please stay out of the 2 o'clock to 6 o'clock window. That's how the rates are. That's the critical period. That's when we peak. That's when our transmission's at its most and stuff like that. In the winter, the peak tends to be a little more spread out. So it could be at 3 in the afternoon, or on a very cold day, it could be at 8 in the morning when the furnaces kick in and everybody's doing breakfast. So the philosophy was, well, you could just set up a summer rate and leave the winter rate as maybe one standard number. And then I think many customers would forget that program's out there and say, oh, wait, am I in the summer variable rate? So we asked the consultant, give us costs for those same 3 periods. And there really isn't a lot of spread, if you will, between the on-peak price and the off-peak. It's about a penny and a half. But that's, again, tied to cost of service. So it's based on the actual costs we're generating at plus the costs that we're doing for MISO. So it's reflective of which is what we want to do is set the right things.
So that makes perfectly good sense on the city side of things. I'm just trying to anticipate on the consumer side. And we have this constant turnover. We have all these people coming to the community, and so there's an education process whenever we bring people. So I'm just trying to think through if this is going to be viable, if this is really going to work. I'm just nervous about having incentives that work differently. And I'm not trying to micromanage this, but if I could offer some consideration, is there a way to synthesize summer and winter incentives. So maybe the incentive isn't as great in the summer, but it's better in the winter from the standpoint of getting the desired behavior changes. So if you train me to do laundry, I do laundry in my house, train me to do laundry at night, then I'm focused on that. So what we're trying to do is to encourage sustained continual behavior, not behavior that changes. So that's just something for consideration. That's all I want to say. And I also wanted to commend. And I thought that the consultant we worked with was one of the finest consultants I have ever come across. Phenomenal. I wish we could clone this person and work with them in all kinds of different areas. That good. I just want to ask this question. We're not talking about solar tonight. And if there was one thing I felt discouraged about, I felt a greater sense of uncertainty leading that meeting in terms of what our policies should be in this area. And I know that this is a really complicated thing, and we're not going to do this tonight. But do you have a date on the calendar or a plan for when you're going to help the community, get input from the community, think through this, so we can develop some long-term plan? Because if we want to encourage people to adopt solar, we have to have a plan that's not going to change every 5 years. So we need something that people can rely on. They're going to make significant investments in these systems. And so I just feel like this is a harder lift than I anticipated. Yeah, could you speak to that?
Yes. So I think when we went back to URAB, we probably spent 25% of our time on the rates, saying, okay, are there tweaks that we need to make, things like that. The majority of our meeting then was spent on value of solar. And come over to our office, we got it all up on the whiteboard, and we looked at a lot of different ideas. What URAB is planning on doing right now is we have another meeting, either the 18th or 25th, I have to check, where the discussion is going to be specifically in the value of solar. Staff has got some ideas we're putting out there. URAB is coming out with that. Once we have that information, we do want to reach out, not only to council, obviously, but to those that are impacted by that solar. We have one of our board members who has a lot of solar on his roof. So he's giving us both the URAB feedback and his own personal. It's a lot of it, to be honest, is going to come down to policy, because there's a way to do it where you just blindly look at what does the map say. The other piece then is it's a policy question. How much do you want to, above the true numbers, how much do you want to encourage it? And encouragement could be a lot of different ways. It could be increased buyback. It could be, well, I don't want to get into a lot of ideas, but there are different avenues. And in fact, URAB's already given staff one proposal on where they'd like to see it going that both encourages it, but puts some operational control on what a program, what are the benefits and what are the costs, and looking at it that way. And then we would report that back to council too.
I'm very excited about that. Do you anticipate that conversation happening this year?
Definitely. URAB is coming back, like I said, at the end of this month, and then if URAB is willing to then say this is what we're recommending, either to council or they want to go out and listen to the public, or one of those two steps will be taken next.
I really look forward to this conversation, and I look forward to hearing from the community. This can't just be about us. If we have that meeting and it's crickets out there, we're in big trouble. Because I believe we need to have a robust conversation with the community. Because I'm not convinced we're going to get this right. It's just us. I think we need to have an opportunity to hear from the people that we're going to ask to be making these investments. So thanks for those comments.
Any other questions? Please.
It's regarding the rates. So I know that probably more are there residential electric rates, it says under the availability section, electrical energy and service shall be available at the residential rate for all single-phase domestic uses in a separately needed dwelling units that are recommended for occupancy by a single family as defined by Ames building ordinance as distinguished from domiciles such as rooming houses, fraternity sorority houses, supervised group homes, residential care facilities of various kinds. And with that, I was just wondering, so does that mean that like a larger sorority fraternity house would their rate be different than that from a like just a singular house with like maybe 3, 4 people living?
Yes. So I think your question is what defines a residence versus what defines, let's say, small commercial, or and even some of those buildings could be considered large commercial if they're 55 kVA or higher. That even steps up. But yeah, so there are some apartment complexes where it's a single meter and you've got 30 apartments in there. That would be a commercial operation as opposed to a bunch of residential. If there's an individual meter per apartment, each is considered then a residential dwelling. In the case of a sorority and fraternity, just due to their size and the amount of energy, they would either be a small commercial, so they fall under those rates, or under a large commercial if it's a very large ABA. Many of our churches qualify as more of a large commercial. They do. Does that answer your question?
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Emily. All right, let's up public comment. I want to ask City Council on proposed ordinance. Seeing none, now I'll close the public comment on this item. And any closing questions? Otherwise, entertain a motion in first passage of ordinance.
If I can make one last comment, because there was an interesting discussion happening within customer service, within electric. The intentions and the wording in here, we would like the rates to go into effect when we start our non-summer billing season. So that is the intent. When we talk to customer service, they say, okay, is that the bill that's mailed out in November? Because you read in here, we talk about it starts October 1. October is the non-summer season. That's the start of it, but bills don't go out till November. So the intentions are to have the rates ultimately go into effect at the end of the summer season. In talking with Mark and talking with Corey, the idea is when we come back, we're going to make sure that we have that wording crystal clear, that all three of us understand that, and that when council does the third reading, that it's absolutely.
Don, will the customers then have that information crystal clear as well, so that they know what's happening and when?
Part of the nuances of this is we don't want to be so far out ahead of council to say, here are the new rates coming, and you haven't even heard it yet. We will be sitting down, assuming adoption now, we'll be sitting down with Susan and others. I happen to be on KHOI on Thursday. I would love to talk about the rates, but council makes decisions for tonight. So yes, we want to get all of the word out, especially on our time of use rates. Again, we'll be looking for probably about 20 volunteers to allow us to work through all of the nuances of the time.
What I'm hearing is that, Mark, you'll have a minor adjustment or clarification in the ordinance when we have the second reading. Thank you. Is there a motion?
Move on first.
Second.
Thank you. Roll call.
Aye. Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye. Thank you.
Thank you, Don. Move on. Item number 31, request to initiate zoning text amendment to allow social service use within an OSFC family conservation zoning district. Kelly.
Good evening tonight. As the mayor said, you're responding to a request that was referred to this meeting for discussion. You have a social service provider group that is looking to relocate or expand their operations to a new site in the Old Town neighborhood. That area has a unique zoning district called the Single Family Conservation Overlay, which was adopted in the late 90s as a way to kind of maintain the integrity of the single family fabric of that area. You'll notice on multiple different uses in the area, from apartments to social service uses that already exist, and single family homes. So the overlay, when it was adopted, included design standards to try and reflect the single family character, but it also restricted uses more so than your typical medium density zoning district. So in this area, we currently only allow for essentially one family and two family homes, and then in some cases, apartment modifications or additions, new apartments could be built with city council approval. So the social service providing use that is on the table tonight is currently not allowed. We have some non-conforming social service providers such as YSS in the area already. So as we looked at this, and we've had conversations with the Romero House about how they operate currently at their property, what they would like to transition to on the new site on Clark Avenue that they purchased, and how would those things kind of fit within zoning. And the conclusion was that they're really operating in a manner that's not typical single family home. They're offering activities and services to the public. And that's really where we decided that it's truly a social service providing use as described in this memo. And that wouldn't be allowed unless city council were to take action to amend the zoning ordinance. With conversations with the Romero House, it was decided that one of the best options available, which is option one described in the report, is to consider the use as a special use. And in the zoning ordinance, we have allowed by right uses, which are permitted by right, and then we have special uses, which require hearing. And those types of uses are typically evaluated by the aspects of how they operate, what's the intensity of use, what's the hours, what are the types of activities that occur on the site. The Zoning Board of Adjustment holds a hearing and has notice to neighbors to evaluate, are there any conflicts with the surroundings? Are there issues that could be mitigated about the operations of establishing that use? So that would be one way to address the unique nature of the social service provider if you were to allow it in this area. Another option that we did outline as a second choice would be to think about siting standards. So if you were to say you don't want it to be a special use permit, but you did want to permit the use, you could set defined parameters of when such a use is allowed. It doesn't really get into the operations. It's more about location requirements or parking requirements or other elements of the site, the physical nature of the site. That seems to be a little more difficult to define because social service providers are they don't all operate the same way. They have different types of services, different interests. So it could be added that way, but it would also be difficult to understand whether it's the Romero House interest or somebody else's interest. Now, if council does agree to go forward with this text amendment, it would be through a public hearing process with the Planning and Zoning Commission. We would alert the Old Town neighborhood. They're the neighborhood that would really be impacted by this change, so that they're aware that it's on the table, something to consider. Eventually, it would have to come back to City Council for final approval. With what we're looking for tonight, it would be action from the City Council to allow for the Romero House to initiate a zoning text amendment. If Council does that, then they can proceed to apply for whatever direction you've chosen between option one, option two, or some other direction. If you have no interest in considering this as a use of the zoning district, then no action is needed for this request.
Thank you, Kelly. Questions?
Kelly, I didn't see in this report, maybe I should know this from before. Is this something that if we grant this, that it runs with the land? So let's say the Romero House, 5 years into this, goes a different direction. Another organization wants to take over providing that service. Is this permit with Romero House specifically, or is it with the property?
So if the zoning enables special use permits, and then a special use permit is issued for location, it runs with the land, not the use.
So if, just to make sure I understand this, so if a different organization came in and took over the operations, they could do that without coming back to us. There would be a continuity.
Yeah, they wouldn't have to go to the ZBA or anyone else as long as they operate with the defined description of the use and the parameters that are established in the permit. We don't care what organization runs the service. We care what the service is on the
I
site.
just want to make sure that, okay. And what does the neighborhood outreach look like for something like this?
So typically we went through some outreach on a text memo like this. I think it's unique in this case with the Old Town neighborhoods. We do have Old Town active neighborhoods. We do have neighborhood contacts there. So we would start with that and alert the Old Town neighborhood and see what kind of input they can give back to us as representing that neighborhood. The unique part as a text memo, there's no notification. So if council wanted extra notification, we could do mail notification to the single family conservation overlay property owners at a cost to the city. But there isn't normally a notification process like that. We just rely on the neighborhood association.
Yeah. And this property is sort of on the edge of the Old Town district. Okay. I'm pretty supportive of this, but I'm curious to hear if there's public input.
Other questions? All right, we'll open public comment. Is there anyone that wants to address council on this particular topic? And so you're welcome to come to the podium and introduce yourself.
Better. Thank you, council.
Did you do that?
Yeah, wow.
Did I do that? Did I walk up here too early?
That's pretty good. I don't know.
My name is Matt Mitchell. I'm the director of the Romero House. Thankful for Kelly and for the council seeing us today in this agenda item. The thing that we'd like to address is, as Kelly and Tim had mentioned, that we would like to open the ability for 702 Clark Avenue, which is located right on the corner of Clark and 7th Street, just diagonally right across from Fairway. We'd like to open that up for a special use permit to be applied for through planning and housing to allow for the Romero House to expand to that location. So what that looks like for us as the Romero House is we would offer hospitality specifically to those that are homelessness, mental illness, drug addiction, as we have been already for the past 4 years. And I'm sure you all are aware of what we do. A lot of our values really root from human connection and establishing those personal relationships with people rather than treating them as clients. And so our entire organization is pretty much volunteer run. We have a board, director, and so on and so forth, but the entirety of the mission is sustained by volunteers. So that said, our operations practically look like we're open 1 to 4 on weekdays and 10:30 to 4 on Sundays. We offer hospitality, so people can come and take showers. They can do their laundry for free on our laundry facilities. They can meet with a counselor or social worker on site, and they can also get a meal. So the only place that they would be able to get a meal other than Food at First that we know of in this event. So it's a great asset, and obviously we have seen an increase in need, and I'm sure as you all are aware that homelessness is a huge problem. We think that building relationships is one of the first ingredients to solve it. So that's all I had to say, but any questions?
Matt, if I could, just one question.
Yeah.
So you and I've had a chance to meet with respect to one of the people that you served.
Yeah.
And so I can attest to the very important work you're doing in the community, but can you give us a sense of just numbers? You have like a ballpark and any trends? This is a good opportunity for us to learn from you.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'd say right now we see probably about 30 people in our house on a daily basis. And that's between the hours of 1 and 4. And this is at 709 Clark Avenue. This is across the street from our primary facility, just a residential home. And us staff members, we reside there. That's how we retain the use of the home as a residence. We just offered that open to our friends and people that are in the public that are looking for services. I anticipate an increase when we open and expand to the property across the street. The Orange House is what we call it. I probably would say 40% people. I think building assistant building officer Scott McCambridge said it really kind of crosses the threshold when we get to 50. And I would agree. We are not interested in serving that many people at one time, and that is not at one time. That is throughout those hours of operation. And it is a house, so we have a capacity also that we have to meet because it's volunteer run. We want to make sure that all the volunteers are safe, all the staff are safe, and all the guests are safe.
Thanks for what you're doing in the community.
Yeah, I realize we're in asking this question, and it also applies to the application. Is this for both addresses or just one address?
So for sure, the new address at 702, I think we need to still, if this is an issue, we need to work through what is 709 at the end of this process. So we've had discussions about what's happening now. We want to know, we need resolution on if there's a path forward as a social service provider before we really want to sort out the existing house. It may or may not need its own type of special use permit.
Very good.
There would be a change, right? So, acquiring of the 702 Clark, the 709 would cease to operate as it currently does. It would just be a residence. It would return to residence. 5 unrelated people would reside there. To my knowledge, in conversation with Kelly, that we might need to pursue, I guess, a traditional family and non-traditional family status of some sort because we're not all related. All 5 of us staff aren't. But there would not be any public hospitality offered at 709 Clark once 702 Clark opens up.
All right. Thank you very much. Anybody else? All right, we'll close public comment. Any closing questions for Kim or any comments? Hearing none, I entertain a motion on one of the options.
Option 1.
Second.
Thank you. Those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
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 Any opposed or abstaining? Motion carried. Very good. Thank you. All right, we'll move on to item number 32. Stephen Shanker Plaza Ice Skating Ribbon Status Report. Keith?
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. So, here to talk about the Stephen L. Shanker Plaza and specifically the ice skating ribbon. There's been a lot of questions, comments, concerns about the delay in the project. And really the purpose of this report was really just to identify what the issue is and seek direction from City Council. And that direction is not to choose an option, which we'll go over in a little bit. It's really to provide direction to city staff regarding the hiring of a concrete expert. That a bit more. So just with the project, so the ice skating ribbon is meant to be open for skating November through March every year. So with the project, the concrete itself was poured on December 15th of 2023. And with that pour, after it was done, it was covered for 2 weeks for curing. Got into January, we had a couple of snowstorms, cold weather. We got into February, and staff went and looked at the ice skating ribbon. And when we looked at it, it was noticed some deficiencies in the surface of the concrete. Those are listed in the staff report, but we saw inconsistent finish throughout the ice skating ribbon, rough finish in some areas, purple surface, peaks and valleys in some areas, bird baths, pop outs, voids on the surface, and all of these create a safety concern for staff. So we brought these concerns to Henkel Construction, the general contractor. Everything ice, who's the ice system contractor, Confluence, who is the project lead, landscape architect on the project as well. So at subsequent meetings that we had, all 3 parties agreed with the staff that the surface was unacceptable and it needed to be addressed. Something needed to be done to correct that surface. So you mentioned that the city staff we did see more than just aesthetics as an issue. We saw that there was even in rough surface safety issues arise for the users of this area, and then also the concrete, create concerns for potential further deterioration of the concrete. So options there. We started having questions and conversations about what should we do, and we started with Hankel and everything ice, and they threw out some options. Removing and replacing the concrete was one. They also brought up an option of a methacrylate, which is an MMA coating surface and a coating system. They did do a mock-up of that, but however, there was a local place at ISU that had used this MMA surface. We looked at it. There were concerns with how it held up, and also with ongoing maintenance. So we really didn't see that as an option. So in one of the meetings, Henkel did mention that Henkel staff did mention that hey, if the city wants to remove concrete, we could do a no cost change order. So that happened on March 27th. What we did, the city sent a letter to Henkel on April 3rd, along with the no cost change order to sign and return for removal and replacement. Henkel did not sign that. They still have not signed it. Instead, they talked with staff about another option. They wanted to look and contact industry experts and see if there was another system that could be used. So we said that they could do that, and we would consider that surface for that coating. So really, in following these, option one is to remove and replace the existing ice ribbon. And what I'll say is that both of these options come with risks for the city, and I'll go through those with the pros and cons. But neither one of them is necessarily a slam dunk to say, hey, go with this one or go with this one. And again, we're sharing this with you tonight, and helping educate anybody watching, anybody that's in here, residents, to understand what is going on and why the delays. So with replacing, removing and replacing the concrete, I should just mention too, is that the concrete in the ice skating ribbon, it's not just concrete. There is rebar in there. There's what they call chairs, which is what the tubing sits on. There's a lot of tubing, which the glycol will flow through from the building through these tubes, and that's what the cools the concrete and makes it possible to freeze the ice skating ribbon. And then there's wire mesh. The concrete has aggregates. There's a lot of stuff in the concrete. So the problem about removing and replacing is the city would receive a homogeneous concrete ribbon surface with no overlay products required. We would receive a surface that is safer, more durable, and aesthetically pleasing than what currently exists, and receive a surface that is not subject to the same maintenance responsibility required with the overlay products are used. Now, I should mention we do a lot of concrete in the park system, in the city as a whole. We have concrete in the park system, and we put it in, and we don't have to do anything for many years. We don't put a sealer on it. We don't do anything. Tracking, safety concerns, we'll take care of it, but that's generally few and far between in regards to any maintenance that we have to do on those surfaces. Now, the cons for removing and replacing, there could be delays of completing the project up to 24 months. And that's significant. If that were to happen, 24 months, skating may not occur until November of 2026, almost 2.5 years from now. Repouring the concrete could result in an unacceptable level surface. There's no guarantee that whoever were to do this again would come up with a better surface. That is a con. It's a concern. There's uncertainty whether an ICE subcontractor could be found to remove and replace, the ICE system. So when Henkel did this project, they basically for the ICE system, basically two bidders. Everything ICE was one of them. There was another bidder that wanted to do a CO2 system. City wasn't interested in the CO2 system. So there's concern that if we can replace, will we be able to, or Henkel, will we be able to find somebody to do it? And, with that, if they do find a company, a contractor to do it, the contractor may not agree to use the equipment that's already in place. So we have the refrigeration, the ice making system, the compressors, the condensers, and everything. Through this process, we have found that what does the market is very particular in regards to what brands they use and so on. So that is another concern. So option two would be to grind the existing surface and install overlay of cementitious products. Now, Henkel had done a lot of research, again, talking to industry experts and so on. They feel that what they presented to us was a series of products from Euclid Chemical, which is out of Minnesota, and it's a series of applications that include 5 products potentially. And those are listed, but just to give you an idea, if there are cracks in the surface, they would use a product called Quick Stitch to fill in the cracks before anything else is done. Then there's a primer called Euclid Weld, as well as the primary product Recover, and Recover is a cementitious product, and that could be put down. The primer and the Recover could be put down anywhere from 1, 2, 3, maybe even 4, but anywhere from 1 to 3 coats or applications. So the primer goes down, then the Recover. And the best way to describe this is there is a bird bath out there that's about 3/4 of an inch deep. This Recover, the maximum depth you can apply it in is in 3/8 of an inch. So just to fill that bird bath, you have to do at least 2 coats of the Recover, 2 applications. In other areas where it's maybe higher than what it's supposed to be, your finished product, you can grind that down. Maybe that part of it would only need 1 coat. And then there's also the after that Recover is down, the last one, there's the Curex Dr. Box, which is a curing agent. That gets put down, has to sit for 30 days. That dissipates. Any residuals get cleaned off. And then they also recommend putting down a barricade sealer, which is the product for putting down a sealer with the barricade. So with it, so that's kind of how the system is put together. 5 products, multiple applications of some of those products. The pros for this, avoid excessive delays to complete the project. If we were to go this route, we could possibly be skating as early as November of 2024. Should mention too that the entire system has not been tested yet at this point, so we wouldn't to do that. Maintain the surface look of concrete. There's concern about ongoing maintenance, with this, such as the product itself is with the sealer. Say every 3 to 5 years, you should put down a new coat of sealer. Maybe every 15 years, we have to grind off some of the surface if there's some delamination going on. If there's other issues with that surface, grind it down and then re-put that on there. So we could mitigate the city's risk on these maintenance replacement costs related to this system. We're Henkel agree to provide upfront money contribution to the city. Henkel has offered $50,000 in one of our meetings to cover these costs. When we did our research based on costs and so on, we feel that $50,000 is inadequate because of concrete. Again, we put that down in our shelters and in the park system. We get 30 years out of this concrete, so really we wanted to make sure that we had, if we go this route, that we would have enough money to cover any maintenance costs for 30 years. Initial research with our figuring 125,000 would be a closer number to get us, to. And then the work could be done prior to the plaza being opened up for public use. As far as cons, plaza surface, again, with these 5 different products, several applications of some of the products, which was not specified by the city. As far as ongoing maintenance, I already talked about the sealer every 3 to 5 years and potential replacement every 15. System of applications have never been applied on an outdoor uncovered refrigerated ice surface. So this is a unique situation. But when we asked the manufacturer, has these products been used on our situation, they said that they weren't. The recommended company to apply the various applications, when they showed up, we did a mock-up, or Henkel did a mock-up last week Monday, and the individuals from Skold, the company, to apply, the 2 guys, they showed up, 35 years of experience. We had one of our staff members, Joshua Thompson, facility superintendent, on site, when it was doing it. And they indicated to him that they had never applied this material. They watch a video to see how it was done, and so that was a concern, because you can have a really good product, but if it's applied incorrectly, not very well, then you're going to have issues. And then the manufacturer of different products, we did ask them to write a letter saying that these products, not just one, but all 5 products, the system that they described, the order of putting these products down, if it was appropriate for a refrigerated slab, and they would not give us that letter stating that it was appropriate. So I mentioned that Henkel did this mock-up last week Monday. When it was there, while the product was actually being put down, Henkel did not have a representative on site. Manufacturer's representative wasn't on site. We had our staff person there. Joshua did twice call the site superintendent from Henkel, who was at another job site. Hey, you need to come down here and see what's going on. He eventually did show up about noon, and talked to the representatives that were applying to the product. But based on what they put down and what we saw, we were not happy with it. It was very difficult. I should say that this mock-up also only was 1 layer of recover, and the idea to put this down was to see what finish we would want, instead of called a sweat finish or a knockdown finish. And really, they were going to do both of those, but really, the final product would not be acceptable. What we saw with that. Now, in talking with Henkel after that mock-up, we did have a meeting with Henkel last Tuesday to talk about it, and it said it's very difficult. We're kind of disappointed that they did not have somebody there, that the manufacturer's rep wasn't there. They did indicate at that time that they, when they heard what had happened, they had done this in their shop, mixed it up, it poured out. They could apply it with a squeegee, but that is not what city staff out on ice skating ribbon. So Henkel is proposing to do another mock-up. We did ask, say that if we were going to do a mock-up right now, we told them to put that on hold. If we were going to do another mock-up or have them do that, we would want to see all of these 5 products used and laid down, just like the manufacturer has recommended to us. And at that point, then we would see what the final product would look like. So with this, those are the 2 options. And you can see, there are risks associated with both. At this point, it's imperative to identify a solution that corrects the problem, identified with the surface, minimizes the ongoing maintenance, replacement costs to the city, and provides a safe environment for our users, for many years. So as we were talking with Confluence and Henkel, we do not have the expertise, concrete expertise for this unique situation to really make a decision on do we go with option 1 or do we go with option 2. So with that, we're recommending that the next step is to hire a third-party concrete expert to review the situation and provide a recommendation as the best option for the project. Both of these options are still on the table, but we don't have the expertise. City council doesn't have that expertise, so we are. That's what we are asking council to do is to give staff direction to hire a concrete expert. Now we did approach Henkel in regards to this, hiring additional consultant. We also did ask if they would be willing to pay for this consultant, and they responded with they did not believe hiring an additional third party is the best option for moving forward, and that they would pay for the cost of the consultant. So, any questions?
So, Keith, do you know offhand how much we already have invested in the cooling system equipment that's been installed to operate with what we were expecting to find under the concrete?
Yeah, I think Corey's back there. I think Corey might be better able to answer that question. He's been our money guy throughout, so he probably has a better feel for that.
So I don't have the numbers off the top of my head, but Henkel breaks it down how much we pay for some of the ice components. When this came to our attention, we stopped making payments. So that's kind of been frozen. I think we had requested around $130,000 payment. We did not make that payment and said because we are not accepting the work at this time. So since kind of this came to light, kind of frozen payments on the ice.
That's funny.
Something's
Gave
frozen.
a ton.
Okay, thank you for that. And Keith, maybe I don't understand how these projects work, but it seems really odd to me that pour of the concrete occurred in December and nobody noticed that there were any problems until city staff went out in February. Look, isn't that what the general contractor is supposed to be paying attention to when they've got a sub that's working on something like that?
Yeah, I'm gonna say that Henkel probably saw that prior to us going out in February. So yeah, I'm gonna guess, and Henkel representatives are here, and they could probably speak to that some more. But I'm gonna guess that they did notice, and they may have had conversation with Joshua in regards to it. I don't remember that aspect, but we went out. Josh and I did go out in February.
At this point, the city, Henkel, and the ICE subcontractor all agree that the work is unacceptable.
Yes, the surface is unacceptable and something needs to be done to correct it.
Any questions?
Keith, thank you for your work on this. You have been throwing so many curveballs in the past 5 years with major projects. You could write a book. Um, I think from my perspective, the goal is to get this right. It's not like the indoor pool where you need that amenity 3 years ago. We don't currently have outdoor skating like this now, and so it's not something that the community is missing right now because we don't have it. It would be sort of an addition. So I'm all about getting this right and taking a good view. I'm supportive of the recommendation to get a consultant. Let me just throw out a thought grenade question. At some point, when do we know that we're just working too hard on getting this skating? So is there a point where we say, we have given this a college try, and let's just redesign this plaza? Most plazas in the country don't have a skating rink. So I'm just throwing that out there. That's not a decision I'm prepared to make a motion on tonight, but just for topic of conversation. At some point, we're going to reach a tipping point where we're just working too darn hard on getting this outdoor skating. And let's just punt and make a really nice plaza that we'll enjoy for most of the year and just won't have skating. I don't know that there would be riots in the street if we didn't have that skating. So I'm just throwing that out just as something.
Other questions? Can you clarify this comment that the system, coding system, not been tested? So does Euclid approve the combination of the products that we talked about, the quick stitch, the primer, the Euclid cover, all those for use as a system for coding, or do you know the answer to that? You understand what I'm saying on that one?
If you use the word approve, when we ask the question, if these products were used together in these layers, their answer was in this order, probably. No, they have not used them. It's what they're recommending.
Who's recommending?
Euclid Chemicals. Their manufacturer's rep has recommended
Rep
this
is
is
recommending, but not the manufacturer itself. Is that correct?
Yeah, and I think Henkel might be able to respond to that question more or better on that one.
So the question that was written on your point on the staff report said, manufacturer will not write a letter to the city stating direct medical combination applications nor their product are appropriate for use under both refrigerated slab. So it's both the combination and over refrigerated slab, and this has never been done before.
Right. Yeah, we asked them if it was appropriate to use and write us a letter, and they said no, they would not do that. So to us, it's like, well, they're not going to write a letter. It's very difficult to say that it's and that they haven't used it in a situation like this. That's one of the biggest concerns for us is how will it work? How will it work? If it hasn't been used before.
So I just think, I personally think it's not understanding. How can this system be recommended if it's never been used? Manufacturer stipulated that it's not going to write a letter saying, because usually a manufacturer says it's approved for use in XYZ. So the expectation is the city would go ahead and take the risk on something which has not been approved by a manufacturer in an application. Is that what I'm hearing you say? Someone has determined
I think that's accurate.
So someone's determined, in their opinion, this is the right solution. And I'm trying to understand who is that Henkel or is that everything Ice or
Yeah, everything ICE and Henkel could probably respond to this, but as of right now, for this set of products, we did have a meeting in, I believe it was early June, where it was representatives from Henkel, there was a representative from Euclid Chemicals, and then there was another individual there, and I can't remember who he was representing. But as a trio, they presented, said, here is what we're recommending for. So Henkel could say it was a collective effort to recommend this product, or if it was Euclid, I think they would better be able to answer that question.
and can you clarify what the you're asking for direction on a concrete expert to come in? What would we do as their
Yeah.
services?
Yeah, so in a nutshell, we don't have the scope of services finalized until we get direction from council. So again, we're looking for council to direct staff to hire a concrete expert. But we would, in general terms, we would have that individual come in. They would review our current situation. They would look at the surface. They would review all the reports, that we have to this point, observations of the concrete poured, meetings, those types of things. Would review all of that. Would review the two options that we have on the table right now, replace for the series of chemicals, and then based on all that information, give us some guidance as to what we should be doing. Could be in a matter of a recommendation, where they say we recommend that you do this, or maybe this expert has seen something else used in a situation like this. It's a different product that they feel might be better suited for what we're wanting to do. So in general terms, that's what we're.
So if that occurs, then the responsibility for the recommendation would fall down, so not on the contractor. It would fall outside the realm of the current. You can so if the consultant and the expert said you should use this, I'm really interested in getting involved in that conversation. I think it's good to get that scope figured out what the consultant, what they're interested in doing, and
right,
what liability, responsibility. And so
Yep. Yep.
Okay. And I have to ask this question, and I think we'll open up public comment if Hank wants to come and talk there about do. Can you help us understand why the remainder of the project is not done? I mean, I understand that they've been waiting, trying to get the rink done. I know we've had a lot of rain. Thankfully, we certainly need the rain. But why everything else is not done so these partially opened up?
So we have asked that question as well, and I think that's a good question for Henkel when they come up. We've asked that question. Don't know that we have gotten a great answer, because we were hoping to have the water features open this summer. There's a lot of work that could have been done, and it hasn't. So right now, even with the landscaping, we had asked about that, but missed the opportunity in the spring to do any planting. So now that's going to happen at the end of August and September. So I think that's a good question to ask.
One other question. There was the non-destructive testing report that was supposed to come back this week. Have we received that yet?
We have not.
Okay. Would that? Okay. Thanks.
Can I just explain what that is, Keith?
So with it, so there was some observations made when the pour was made in December, and Some of the observations talked about some of the means and methods of what was used while the concrete was being placed, vibrating, screening, use of water, all those types of things. So, so there was some question from our end because again, there's a lot of material that's and there's aggregate in the concrete. And one of the concerns was if they did not use the vibrators, if they did not use the screening, all those types of things, were there potential voids, within the concrete, and what was the structural integrity of the concrete. So the non-destructive testing, what they could do is they use a machine, they go out and they check certain areas, and what they can do is they can see if there are voids above the piping or between the piping. They would not be able to detect voids below the piping. So that's what the non-destructive testing was. Once we get the report, if council gives staff direction to hire the concrete expert, that is something that we will share with that expert as well.
Any questions? All right, well, public input. And Richard? Richard, I'm sorry, this needs to be specifically about this topic, not about something else that's not related.
Well, it's like I want to be a nudist.
Richard.
And I think there should be a place for nudists. And I think the Stephen Schenker probably be
Richard, please.
that.
And if you would introduce yourself, and you can start.
Thank you. Yes, Kelsey with construction. Jason Knapp with Gold Construction.
And your roles are?
Yeah, project manager for the Schenker Plaza project. I'm VP of operations for our Central Iowa office.
Thank you. Go ahead.
So I guess address a few things that were brought up.
You can make sure that I know you're you're pretty tall. I'll make sure that Mike have your voice for the broadcast. Thank you.
I guess to address some things that were brought up with this, I guess starting with delays in the project. So I know the ice rink is the latest delay, but there's been, I know the project's been going on for years, and it was initially an 8-month project, and we've had, there were several along the line, from the initial tunnel running under Clark, having delays initially on the road construction. We had health department sign off, that was delayed significantly, which we should now open first winter. And even on the splash pad portion of it recently, we've still undergone design changes as of now, which is where we're at for that portion of it. This ice rink resurfacing issue, this is something that I guess we've explained in meetings that we want to have access. If the option is to tear it out, which the city letter came and told us to tear it out, we want to have access to tear this out without destroying construction being put in place. So if we build the south stage, and all the adjacent food truck parking, paving, we'll have to go over that repeatedly, tearing out the slab, repouring concrete. It was an effort to conserve new construction and not cause further damage. So, if it's something where we can sit here and say this is, I know we have a third-party testing agency report still pending, but if this is something that we can say is just a surface issue, the ice cream portion of it, hasn't been tested, but we have no reason to believe any of the consultants, the third party, ice engineer we have, or the city has at their disposal here, doesn't have concerns of the system working. Right? So if we can say that, we can proceed with the remainder of the project to completion.
Anything else?
And I guess speaking to the chemical composition products, I guess we had Euclid rep here, kind of stating this case, walking through everything. I guess just pointing out these products are designed to work together, designed in unison. It wasn't a compiled list of products he put together, I guess to try to sell us, for lack of a better term, but more so that, I mean, you can see on their website, this product, Yuko Recover is the product, and there is accessory products that are made for it, which is what was referenced in the report.
And just add into that, I think one of the questions to Keith was that they were not willing to write a letter. I think being specific in that letter was what they were not willing to address. They're not willing to write a letter that this product is for ice, right? It's acceptable for freeze thaw conditions. Euclid believes this is the correct product for the coating. I think there is some on the system being multi-layered. These are recommended accessory products for it. So Keith, you have the information on that, but the product data states that the bonding agent does not have to be used. It's an enhancement, and we want to make sure that this product goes down correctly, right? So I guess we are trying to produce a quality product that completes this project in a timely manner, and we're looking for the city and the council to be open to what options that could be. So we're trying to accelerate this forward.
So one of the questions I had for Keith was, what is your role as the general contractor in monitoring what your subs are doing? If we have the pour in December and staff identifies a problem in February, did you look at that between then if you now think it's unacceptable?
Yeah, so I guess leading up to the pour, we had a pre-pour meeting with all applicable parties and consultants, walking through the process. Everyone who was involved in the agreed that December was acceptable for with certain conditions. So, and to address your question of quality, it was brought to, it is a sub of a sub who poured it, but our site superintendent who's out there all day of the pour, also pointed this out to him of the potential finish issues that they're trying to correct. Obviously, it was covered and cured, with the snowstorms and things like that was mentioned. Photos early January were pulled and taken of the finish of this concrete and posted to our public forum of Procore that everyone has access to that's involved with this project. So there was zero hiding from the issues. We had a meeting with Confluence and the ICE engineer, B32, who they hired, and talked about these issues. Hey, does this affect the ice rink system? Is this just a topical issue? What are your concerns? So it wasn't met with equal line down, trying to, I guess, dust it under the rug.
I just don't know what you should have been doing. I'm wondering how we got here. That's what I'm trying to figure out, because it seems like that's kind of an essential piece of the project, that you have to have a sound base layer before you can finish the ice. So I don't know.
Follow-up question: when you had that meeting after these, just with you, the subcontractors, or was the city involved with that meeting as well?
The city was not involved, actually. So it was with the city's consultants. So the landscape architect, the new ice engineer, B32. That was our initial conversation before, we took it to the city, essentially.
Also mentioned earlier, the report has not been issued yet, but we do have a verbal that the slab is structurally sound. This is purely an aesthetic issue with the finish of the concrete. So,
well, but clearly, Parks and Rec has concerns not about aesthetics, but about trip factors and things like that occur when it isn't iced, because it's going to be used by kids in other seasons. So it's not just aesthetics. And I want to make that clear to whoever's watching this, that we're not just concerned about how it looks. We're concerned about anybody who is using that ribbon, especially when there's an ice. And so it may be sound underneath, but if its surface is pitted and has bird baths and various other things, that's not going to be a safe surface, at least not safe to the level that we would expect in the park system or our playground facilities.
And what we are trying to propose is that there is a topical solution to address all those issues.
So yeah, on that solution, initially, Michael indicated you were willing to proceed with the no-cost change order to remove and replace the concrete. I know that was never signed. You kind of speak to why the topical solution is preferred by you, and if maybe that's a cost factor or other things that came into play there.
Yeah. So initially, talking to our subcontractor, Everything Ice, at one point they were agreeable to tearing it out at their cost, right? Because that's what it would have to be to proceed without us going through a bond action on them, right? So at one point they were agreeable to it. They said, "Hey, here's epoxy product, or we can tear it out and replace it." Essentially, with the letter, let's call them their bluff to a certain extent. And they weren't agreeable, right? So that's something we had to take to them to sign, and they were not agreeable to it at that time.
So Keith, this is the first I've heard about the water feature still being in, not having to go through redesign. This is a surprise to me. Can you explain what's going on?
Yes. So after we dry deck around the near splash pad area, inspections, City of Ames inspections noted that it wasn't bonded. There's been bonding, wire mesh or something to bond, have grounding in that concrete. After discussing, we found that the plans stated that only metal in that area needed to be bonded. So that concrete, after talking and discussing, it was decided no, you needed bonding in that concrete. So Confluence has said they will work with Henkel on a solution to tear out that concrete, and it'll have to be re-poured. Bonding was done on the other pours, but working with City of Ames inspections and Confluence, we have to bond the pavers. The original area of pavers was going to be concrete, asphalt layer, glue, pavers. Well, with that system, there's no way to bond the pavers. Bonding is because you have water and electrical. You have electrical doing the pumps, things like that. So you don't want an area that you could be on one concrete and touch that wet deck, call it, and you become the grounding. So with that paver system, there was no way to bond the pavers because you'd have to get water or something. You do asphalt and glue. So we are going to a sand base so we can put the wire mesh or what Henkel decides to get that bond. One portion will be tore out. The rest of it has been done correctly, but we didn't make a change for the pavers.
Where is this paver stuff going on?
That is kind of in the patio area near the restrooms. If you look out there now, you can kind of see a pressed concrete area. That's where the pavers were.
So this is a design issue?
Yes. According to Confluence, they said they would work with people on the replacement because of the note that was noted on the plans, just referencing the code.
So it's not a redesign to meet Department of Public Health, basically an important imperative safety issue for those who are going to be in the area.
Yes, it's to meet electrical code, which is why we're making the changes.
So is there a written schedule that you have showing the path forward from Henkel to get this project finished short of the ice rink? And I get you got to have part of the site accessible for equipment to do repairs. But the building, for sake of discussion, the other things, the landscaping, north. Do you have anything that, right now, I mean, just so you guys are aware, we're getting questions from people in the public just saying, what in the heck's going on? You know, why is this not finished? So if staff has got a written schedule outlining and saying this, we have some certainty and moving forward. So is there anything proposed, or is it more or less just waiting until something?
I think there was probably a hold up and maybe talk to it with the bonding issue.
I mean, the bonding and the
splash pad.
and that's the landscaping and the grading and the other stuff on the northwest part of the site?
Yes, it could if there was potential to maybe leave that concrete in place and do something else.
Okay. So to the schedule issue. When can we expect to have this finished, except for the ice ribbon and south? I get that.
I guess from our opinion, we've been saying this ice rink portion, I guess we want to build the project monolithically, right? Instead of turning it into two projects for us. And I get it's gone to a pretty extreme here with how long it's been. But that's kind of been our voice the whole time. We have a supervisor on site, and if we turn this into two back-to-back projects, we extend our time out here significantly. And also just the workability of the site. I mean, I know at first we had some issues with the design of the water chiller on the backside, right? And that's when we put the project on hold last winter. There's some discussions on it. But anyway, we had to hold up on the splash pad portion of it as we needed access to these areas to work in, to work efficiently, not choke ourselves off, essentially, right? So, and that's kind of been where we're at now. I mean, we're proceeding forward as of right now, but I don't know how to put a schedule together with if we don't know the action for the ice, right?
Could you speak to the site superintendent not being there when the overlay products were tested? From my perspective, the site superintendent really needed to be there to supervise and make sure that those products were going on correctly, and with that not being an acceptable finish at the end of it, how can we trust the superintendent is monitoring all the other contractors that are on site?
Yep. So we have a superintendent on the project, purely dedicated to this project at the beginning. With the delays over the years, I guess, we've had to allocate him to another job close by in the interim, right, to control our costs on this thing. So he stopped over for the mock-up. There was a grinding portion that needed to take place, which was claimed by our sub to take several hours. So we left, planned on come back when they were going to apply it, and it went much quicker than that. So by the time they got back, they've already applied it. So, yeah, that's essentially what happened there. So,
Any other questions? All right, thank you. Anybody else want to address council on this topic? Public input. All right, so as council's heard, staff's requesting and recommending that a independent concrete expert be brought in to assess the situation. Can you comment on how long that might take? Or, I mean, I think that you're waiting for some direction from council, but is this in the next 2 weeks, 4 weeks, 6 weeks, 2 months?
Yeah.
Or, have you been
To answer that question. So we have made initial contact with the potential expert company. It could potentially be here within a month or so. Yep. So they could potentially be here within a month or so, but it's a little bit subject to the direction that we give them and the scope of services that we develop. So, but ideally, they know that we want to move forward with this project sooner than later. And so I think they're willing to prioritize the work.
Do you want a motion there? I would move that we authorize staff to develop an RFP for a scope of services for an independent review of the ICE
We're hoping
ribbon.
you just authorize us now to actually engage in services.
Okay. So that includes developing the scope and all of that. And
Yeah.
engaging the services.
We won't come back to the council.
It won't be an RFP, it's just more or less.
It's just, okay.
We have a recommended person who the right cuts down. We don't have a budget, it has to be charged to the project. If there's any project, and we'll move as quickly as possible. If we want to come back, we'll just go hire the person.
Okay, so I would move that we ask staff to engage an independent expert to assess the quality of the
two options.
Is there a second?
Second.
So the scope of work is going to involve assessing the current state of the project, correct?
The surface,
Yeah. To ensure that it's structurally sound.
the subsurface too, right? They'll review that report that's being.
Right. And then alternatively, they're going to provide an opinion of some sort
Right.
on the proposed solution.
That's right.
And that's it, right? Those are the only two things we're asking them to do.
The proposed solution, there's two options.
No, the expert. We're only asking them to evaluate those two things, right?
And I guess if a person knows a third one that we're going to recommend of an overlay, certainly listen. Right? Not going to have them go out and look for something and spend time on it. If you've seen a case like this before, it has experience with another coding service, we certainly take that recommendation if you wanted to offer.
So then so they're going to provide some sort of report to staff. I mean, you're going to bring that back to council, correct?
We certainly will.
I guess my concern is that, this project is significantly behind schedule. I don't think it helps the frustration that the community also is already feeling to have this continue to be drug out. And so with staff and Henkel and outside expert opinions, whether that's someone we hire or if Henkel's got third parties, I guess I'm trying to get to, is it better off for staff to get a report and provide us with whatever the expert recommendation is, rather than having us who are not experts in any of this evaluate all of these things out in the open? We don't really have that expertise.
We won't evaluate it. They will come back with a recommendation. Okay. That you can choose to accept that recommendation. They're going to tell you what the best course of action is. Now, if you want to delay, what's before you is you have two options before you. If you feel that you have enough information, you can pick one of those options right now. We believe that we don't as a staff, and we think it's a very important decision. If you're looking for the long-term viability of this project, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we think, I know it's going to be delayed, but it's important we get an expert to help us make the decision. And we don't have a preference. If they are going to say that the suggested overlay is the best system, and then they will recommend that, and you'll make a decision whether you want to accept it. We're not going to ask you to analyze it. They're going to analyze it and come up with a best recommendation.
I just feel like we're already analyzing it.
Are you trying to short circuit? Comes back, staff just you go ahead and move forward.
Not necessarily, no. I just don't feel like, personally, I guess I'll speak for myself. Like, I don't feel like I'm in a position to be able to make any sort of expert opinion on what type of servicing is appropriate, proper. So, you know, you have all of these third-party opinions, and we don't even know if there's going to be agreement amongst all the third-party opinions. So how are we going to wade through all of that?
It'll be up to you. We're trying to get someone who's reputable in the, you're recommended, is reputable in the industry. I'm sure somebody can hire another opinion if you want to. It's like any consultant. We brought a cost of service study person in there. I'm sure you could have hired somebody else to come up with different recommendations. I'm positive that's everybody spoke highly of that consultant. I could probably find another consultant that will reach different conclusions, but from the recommendations we have, we think this is the right person.
It seems clear to me that we don't, staff isn't comfortable making that kind of decision without the outside. And it sounds like Henkel also was going with advice from somebody else. So I'm not willing to move forward without having that third party who knows something more than we do.
If they come back, and I'm going to be deferential to staff on this, but I'm sort of in Amber's camp. If the expert comes back and says this coding is awesome, good coding, we're to the mayor's point, we're still being guinea pigs. And the expert doesn't know. It's the most the expert can do is speculate. Because we don't have anything firm in terms of the use of this in manufacturers who are willing to stand behind it. So if it were up to me alone, I would just tear the thing out and we do it and have some forward progress on it.
Tim, I don't disagree with that. In fact, I also asked, we have that plan to not go ahead in the future if it turns out things don't work out. So I'm not against that, but I think if we have the ability to move forward, we should. But I'm not willing to make that decision without somebody who knows concrete being able to weigh in.
But all I'm just suggesting, if you play this out and they say this stuff is magic and it just did a great job, we're still, the best recommendation they could give us, it still puts us in an element of unknown. That's the best possible outcome.
It's true.
And so,
To say that the expert doesn't know, I think that that's selling them a little bit short too. Like an expert should be able to make more than just a wild guess at whether or not it would work, right? So at least,
well, I mean, I would like to think that's the case, but if the person, the organization who makes the stuff isn't going to stand behind it, how in the world is this expert going to come up with any greater level of certainty?
Okay.
I think we're in a tight spot.
I think the points are, there's any other points people want to make. I understand. All right, those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. All right. All right, moving on to item 33, major site development plan for Dunkin' Donuts at 209 Lincoln Way. Hi, Amelia.
Good evening. So this is a partial redevelopment of the property at 209 Lincoln Way where Burger King was previously located. They're reusing parts of the building, getting rid of the play structure, reconstructing parking lots, adding landscaping and doing a new facade as well. Since it's a redevelopment site, there's a few pre-existing conditions that we need to do some alternative approvals for to allow the site to redevelop. Those include reducing the number of required parking spaces by 10%. So that's an overall reduction of 3 parking spaces, reducing the setback of the drive-through from the north property line to 4 feet from the required 5 feet, which is allowed under the new ordinance to allow alternative design adjustments of up to 20%. And then waiving the sidewalk on the frontage with Sherman on the
east side of the site. There's also a recent amendment to our missing infrastructure requirement ordinance that allows waivers when installation doesn't seem to be feasible. And in this case, to construct the sidewalk, we need the property owner to the north across the alley to consent to having an accessible receiving end. And that does not seem to be possible at this point in time. So with the waiver of the sidewalk, we will still get the easements necessary should it become feasible in the future to construct that. The Planning and Zoning Commission reviewed this plan and recommended approval. And the city manager's recommendation is alternative 1, approval with those alternative approvals that we just discussed, and conditions relating to a survey of the site and getting lighting plans. So again, while there's some nonconformities remaining on the site, the applicants made great efforts to conform with our requirements, and this is the first redevelopment in our downtown gateway zone. It will enhance the building and the site. I'm happy to take the questions.
Questions?
The question about the sidewalk part. It's not feasible to get the property owner across the way, or it's just really difficult.
So yes, this sidewalk can't be constructed in the public right of way on this site due to the location of power poles. So it has to snake onto private property on the 209 Lincoln Way subject property, and then also where it crosses the alley beyond private property at that alley crossing.
I see.
So an alternative typically would be to reroute the sidewalk, have it cross, go to the east across Sherman first prior to going to the north. But due to the power poles and other issues with the Sherman right of way, that wasn't feasible either. It could just dead end on the site, but that doesn't seem like a good solution.
Okay, thank you.
My only question on this is on access to the property. With some of these, like the Dunkin' Donuts in West Ames, the cars back up and create traffic issues on Lincoln Way. And we were able to solve this problem with some other properties that we've seen redevelopment. Could you speak to the issues of traffic on access?
Sure. So our code requires adequate queuing is the term, and so we've interpreted that for fast food restaurants to be at least 5 cars queued behind the menu board. In this case, they have more than that minimum requirement provided. I believe it's about 120 square feet or linear feet on the site for cars to queue. I think part of the driveway configuration is also helpful here. Drive-through configuration is also helpful here. With the request to reduce the setback of the drive-through, they are providing a curb along the alley, but that curb will also have an ingress and egress of two-way traffic to allow folks to hop out of the drive-through line if they want to. And then you do have 2 site entrances as well.
I love the redevelopment of this. Believe me, we were watching this property sit vacant for a long time, so super excited about this. One more question: were there any alternatives to accessing other than off Lincoln Way?
Yeah, they provided the 2 alley accesses as well. So there's 2 accesses to the site off of Lincoln Way, and then there's 2 accesses to the site from the alley. Both are 2-way accesses. We did look into it. The Sherman access wasn't proposed. We didn't look into them. There are high voltage transmission lines there. That was just a limiting factor or need to be moved if we did access this.
Yeah, and it's close enough to the intersection with Duff that I worry a little bit about if traffic was backed up, how that impacts the traffic coming westbound off of that intersection. So those are my only thoughts on it. I don't have any magic answers.
The only other thing
I'll add is that the DOT does control the right of way along Lincoln Way. So it's under their purview to approve accesses and their locations.
So what is that? I apologize. What does that mean?
The DOT does the access management along Lincoln Way. So moving the accesses on Lincoln Way would need to go through a DOT process if they were going to move or be reconfigured.
I mean, I hope if there was something that was improved access, it would be an easy approval. I don't know. I don't know what the right answer is. Maybe it's not an issue.
It looks very similar to that other coffee shop that we approved on the corner of Clark and Lincoln Way, as far as the entry from the alley and the entry from the street. So I was worried about that one. I haven't seen any problems with it, so
It's been a huge improvement there.
So I guess I'm comfortable with the queuing on this because I thought that other one was going to be a problem and it hasn't.
All right, other questions? All right, I conclude the public hearing on this site development plan. Is there anyone that wants to address council on this topic? Seeing none, we'll close public hearing. Entertain a motion on resolution approving major site development plan for 209 Lincoln Way.
Approval.
Thank you. Roll call.
Aye.
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 Thank you, Maria. Move on to item number 34, hearing on water pollution control facility and nutrient reduction modification phase number 1.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. On June 26th, we opened bids for the nutrient reduction modifications at the water pollution control facility. A total of 2 bids were received, and you've got a copy of the bid tabulation in the packet. You'll certainly notice that the bids exceeded the estimate by a considerable margin. So our recommendation tonight is that you simply accept the reported bids and delay taking any action on an award until the July 23rd City Council meeting. That will give us an opportunity to do a full evaluation of the bids and a range of possible options for us to be able to still comply with our permit obligations in a way, though, that's in the best interest of the city and of our ratepayers.
Thank you, John. Any questions for staff?
Is there any question about this, the timing? I mean, this is a big project and we only received 2 bids. I guess I would hope that the other bidders, is the nature of this work so technical that by itself limits the number of players that are eligible?
I think it's got just more to do with the general level of work that contractors have. There's just not a lot of them. This is a big project and it'll be a significant workload. And there just were not more than 2 contractors that were able to invest the time.
Wasn't there a large project bid the same day in Cedar Rapids?
There was. The scale of the projects, though, were considerably difficult. We talked about that, both with our consultant and with some of the equipment suppliers, to know if there was likely going to be any conflicts, and both of them felt that. We were looking at different sized contractors doing the work. But yeah, Cedar Rapids opened bids on a similar type of work the same morning that we opened ours. And they saw a similar magnitude above their engineer's estimate as well.
What's challenging, I mean, I love the fact that Woodruff and Ames company bid on this. That's awesome. But the fact that there wasn't a single bidder in the state of Iowa who also bid on this. This is a group of Peoria. It's fascinating that they could giddy up, come over here, pay staff, that they would bid for this. They must be hungry. It's just curious if we don't have any of the Iowa bidders on this.
Yeah, we cast a pretty big net. We let a lot of folks know that the bids were out, and this is what we ended up with for interested bidders.
Yeah.
Okay, I declare the public hearing on this project to be open. Is there anyone who wants to address council on the water pollution control facility? nutrient reduction modification phase 1. Seeing none, declare public hearing to be closed. Entertain motion to accept the report and bids and delay a decision on whether or not to award until July 23rd.
So moved.
Thank you. Those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carried. Thank you, John. All right, we'll run to disposition of communications to council versus a informational email from Dylan Klein regarding payback on the geothermal cost analysis. Is there any interest on referring this to anybody or take it as information?
I would move that we take it as information.
Second?
So this is an opportunity for us to right a wrong. We call ourselves, when we say that we are making decisions in a data-driven manner, and once we receive additional data, then we just sort of ignore it. And respectfully, I think we should stop saying that we're data-driven or decision-making matrix if we just ignore this data. And I'm really afraid that the climate goals are hijacking the moderate income housing aspect of the Baker subdivision. So this is really an opportunity. And we don't have to take action on that. At least we should have a conversation. And the fact that we're going to put this on the agenda means we're not willing to listen and have a conversation.
We've had the conversation already.
But not with this information.
I don't see this as necessarily new information.
But it is. We didn't have this.
There are a lot of pieces that are from this that are also factors in the equation that we would use to make these decisions. We've already had this conversation, and I guess I don't want to be rehashing the conversation every time we hear that one of our climate goals is difficult, because they're all going to be difficult.
I think it is important, though, to be mindful of, what goals are competing, right? We have climate goals, we have affordable housing goals, and we do have to have conversations about which ones we're going to prioritize when they conflict with one another.
I guess I thought we already had that conversation.
I think we did to an extent, but I do think the information that Dylan provided does shed a little bit more light on some specifics that we didn't know before.
I would agree with that. I think information on the payback and the repair costs for these systems were new to me.
But the payback is a function of how much energy a person uses affects the payback as well, right? And we have no data about how much energy usage is normal or average, right? So that is a huge piece that would be missing, right? That we don't know and that wasn't presented. So I don't know that. Yeah, I don't know that this has convinced me of anything different.
We have 3 council members that at least, I don't know what the other council members are. You have 3 council members that aren't convinced that we've had an adequate conversation. How in the world can we be settled that this is the right resolution? Half the council doesn't agree.
Okay, so the motion was info only. Those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
Nay.
Motion.
Mayor, I move that we put this on the future agenda.
Second.
Those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Okay, number 2, email from Archie Green, great grandchild of Archie and Nancy and Martin. Can you just offer an update on we're getting some quotes today on peer removal and how this might play into it?
I understand that we took bids for the removal last week. I don't have information about what bids were or whether they were acceptable. But if you recall, the direction from the council was we would attempt to take bids, including the removal of reliefs. And if it was possible, we would remove the reliefs. If we cannot remove them intact, then we would proceed with demolition of piers as is. So I'm going to speak with Public Works this week, but I believe our intent is to try to test out whether removal is feasible. Removal of the reliefs is feasible on one of perhaps the simpler ones to do over on this end of Fifth Street, or City Hall, before proceeding with any of the other ones, including the Mart Pier. If it's successful, the removal, then we would continue having the contractor remove the reliefs before demolishing the piers. If it is not successful when we test it, then I don't see any reason why we couldn't allow the Martin family to hire somebody to try to take out the Martin Pier wholesale. There's really nothing to be lost by attempting to do that. I'll continue to talk with Public Works and figure out a plan.
I think that you updated the council. You saw the email from the granddaughter. Is that what was her name again?
Marie.
Marie. And Brian and I met with her. Had a really good conversation. I think Justin was actually. No, he wasn't. The three of us. Anyway, bottom line is that they found a new home for that entire pier on campus if they can't salvage the reliefs. So I said, we're going to try and see if we can salvage the reliefs. They were thrilled because they would take those if they could and then use them maybe someplace else on campus. I think by the Martin dormitory is what it is. But if it's not successful, they just ask that they have the opportunity to take the pier and at their expense and then reinstall. So I'd be happy to let Mr. Green, or actually, could I have you probably got you respond back to him after you?
It's a woman.
Oh,
Archie Green is a woman.
my apologies. I could let Archie Green know that what the status is, and we'll keep him appraised of what's going on then. Thank you. Next is an email from Surveyor Parvez regarding rental housing practices.
This is something that we have had come before us multiple times, and I think that we have determined that we don't really have any power to do anything. So I think maybe responding with an email.
I have been corresponding with him a little bit, and kind of gave him the same spiel that has been said when other people have, and told him some other routes to pursue. So
Okay, resolved.
I think so, because he said he was going to reach out to some of the contacts I gave him.
Thank you. Next email from Lisa Coyle. I'm sorry, mispronounced her name. Suggestions for City of Ames sustainability programs. Is there any interest of doing anything with this or not?
Seemed-
Okay.
Go ahead.
Take it under advisement.
Okay.
It seemed like there were three different, departments that were mentioned in here. And so I would put that taking it under advisement would be passing it on to whoever.
That's not what I intended necessarily.
Right.
With my
So motion intends is just basically thank you for the email. We'll keep it in the back in our minds.
Yeah.
Was there a second? The motion?
That was a motion.
Was there a second to the motion? I'm
There
sorry.
has not yet.
I'll second.
Needed just did. Okay. Those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Next is from Ido Friedberg regarding bicycle safety.
I would move that we take this under advisement.
Second.
Okay. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Carried. And request for zoning text amendment from Peter Moore and Lisa Schulte Moore.
Steve, do you have a recommendation?
Kelly, the text amendment request in the garage, any thoughts on how that should be handled? A memo or go right to it or what? Put on the agenda or what? Which one refer to?
Yeah. I mean, the writer of the email gave you quite a bit of information. It's pretty detailed. The standard's pretty plain, and it's the way it's written. It's an 8 or 20-foot setback. There's not much more to explain in terms of a memo. So I think if you want to discuss it, you could put it directly on an agenda. There's not a whole lot more for us to add to the situation in terms of what's being requested by the applicant or the homeowner.
It would be helpful, Kelly, to know, because I don't keep track of this. Have we done similar things in the past with respect to requests like this?
I mean, it's a little bit unique. The only one I can think of is a few years back, a homeowner with a non-conforming garage had asked us to reconsider our non-conforming accessory building standards, and we took that on as a holistic issue for the city, and it touched on many issues, not just one person. This one's a lot narrower in scope in terms of the alley access for garages. Many houses do have garages, but it's much narrower in scope. But you're changing it for everybody. It's not an exception. It's not a one-off. It's not a variance. It's a standard in the code. It's a setback requirement.
Seems like we've been trying to incentivize increasing density and improving the use of the property. I'd like to hear more about it and have the council think about it.
Sure, motion.
I move that we put it on a future agenda.
Is there a second?
Second.
Your discussion?
So are there other areas in the city where this applies, or is this something unique to that weird?
Applies
angle?
to all alleys.
All alleys.
All alleys
It's
have
not
an 8 or a 27. It's not just angled alleys. It's all alleys.
Okay.
Those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Nay.
Nay.
So is Brahman and Gloria?
Yeah.
That it? All right, motion passed. Last is input regarding infill housing on Welbeck from Marcine and Larry Monroe. Yeah, so just thank you for the email. Yeah.
Mhm.
All right. Council comments. Emily, we'll start with you.
So we did a time back for November 20th for the joint city council student government meeting. They want to do from 5 to 6 p.m. I haven't found out which room it's going to be in yet. But it'll probably be at the Memorial Union. I can't tell but it would be. I will be in the next meeting. I have something to do today, so I'll be there on the 27th in person with you guys. One thing I also wanted to say is that so I'm living in an off-campus apartment this year. And I'm up for my electricity, utilities, all that, and I just want to say that it's wonderful that it's such an easy process. And I would like to say that I think all appreciate that it's not super complicated and it can get done really fast. So that's all I've got.
Thank you. Rowan,
Nothing for me, thank you.
Nita, Amber.
Nothing for me.
Nothing tonight?
I got a few things. So I was under the impression that there was an access easement to the new bike trail that goes underneath South Duff, so South Fifth, and it goes out into the middle of nowhere that connects with a gravel access that we use for city wells if you go south of UPS. Apparently, we do not have access to that, which is really disappointing to me. And so I move that we ask staff, I don't see on how to access.
Establish a plan to do that.
Yeah, so right now we have a bike trail to nowhere. So I would like to connect this up. So I move that we ask staff to bring back a memo on how we would access our new bike trail.
There's like location to get that.
So I apologize, from Lincoln Way on the gravel, it's a gravel road south to the new concrete bike trail.
Is there a second?
For a memo.
Second.
Second. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Carried.
We celebrate Parks and Rec Month, and I don't know how many people are actually watching, but we've got great Parks and Rec programs through the summer. I will confess that I took a ballroom dance class. It was a great experience. I'm not sure I'm any better ballroom dancer, but it was really fun. And I'm taking an exercise class, great instructor. So if people are looking for opportunities to do fun things over the summer, our Parks and Rec programs are outstanding. On a sad note, we marked the passing of two people that have had a great influence on our community. I encourage people to take a look at Jim Pease's obituary or piece he wrote on behalf of Irv Kloss. We would have an evening if it wasn't for Irv Kloss. I don't know. Very important.
A lot of natural areas. Yeah.
So we owe a great debt to Irv, and just a wonderful individual, and he will be missed. And Roy Cakewright also served on school board for a period of time, a very service-oriented person. So our condolences to the families.
All right.
I didn't know Roy, but I have greatly appreciated Irv's input over the years and his continuing commitment to making Ames' natural environment healthy and better for all the residents. So I'm sorry to hear of his passing, and condolences to the family.
Right. And thanks to staff, and they helped us with our 4th of July parade. It was nice to see somebody, residents out, had perfect weather. And was it really? Yeah, it was great. Okay. Actually, Council, I skipped over report of governing body with any report from ACBB, Discover Ames this time. AEDC, any report?
No.
Story County Emergency Management Agency meets next Wednesday night. How about transit? Anything for transit?
No, we haven't had since last report.
Very good. All right. Mark, does council have justification to going into closed session?
Yes, you do. Iowa Code Section 21.51C allows the council to go into closed session to discuss matters presently in litigation.
Is there a motion to go into closed session?
So, second.
Moved and seconded. Roll call.
Aye.
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 Aye. Aye.
Thank you. All right, we're back in open session. Is there a motion relative to the topic discussed in closed session?
We go forward with the proposed settlement.
All right, thank you. Roll call.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Yeah, the entertained motion to adjourn.
We adjourn.
Second.
All right, those in favor say aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned. Thank you.